if I'm not my best, I'm missing out on all this impact. Some of it's the story of, losing my dad and seeing how much he missed his impact because of not taking care of his health. I think both of those for me help accelerate that pain to say, here's what could be possible based off of what I'm seeing from other people. And then 2 is, am I willing to miss out on all that impact because I was coasting?
All right, this is another episode of Feedback with your man, Nick Alfano. I've got a super special guest here. Super special. All the things. Some of you guys might recognize this gentleman when you see him on your screen in a second. We have worked together. I have coached and mentored him, and then we became good friends. Then we became colleagues and partners on a business, and then he's grown quite a bit, and now he's off doing his own thing, doing a couple major things, which I'll let him get into. But this guy, and this might sound a little selfish, he reminds me a lot of myself. Not even when I was his age, because he's a lot younger than me, but he reminds me of like kind of where I'm at, now to some degree. So anyway, where I'm going with this is this gentleman has been able to hang out in rooms with guys that are 10, 15, 20 years older than him and very much hold his own, because of the amount of work that he's done on himself, and I'll let him get into some of that as well. So, D1 athlete, currently, running a couple different companies, heavy into fitness, which you'll hear about, but also has transitioned into the corporate sector by way of helping businesses scale and some even get ready for exit and sell. So my man Cole Taylor is here. Welcome to the show. That was a bit of a butcher job on your intro. And the reality is I haven't talked to you a whole lot in almost a year, so I don't know what exactly you're up to. So why don't you catch my people up to speed and just kind of talk about that?
Yeah, what's going on? Glad to be here. Intro is great. I love your intros and stuff.com. We have spent so much time together, like you said, not so much in the last year, that we have more inside jokes than I could even probably say. So I'll try to avoid saying all those. But yeah, Cole Taylor, a lot's going on. 2 main businesses I focus on right now. One is our health company, which we're 6 years into that and have helped thousands of entrepreneurs get healthy. Collaboration of functional medicine and fitness. And so our game is let's get data on people's bodies, DNA, hormones, gut health, food sensitivity, truly understand what's going on, and then create a prescriptive approach to whatever their goal is. Whether that's energy increase, get shredded, build muscle. A lot of them are doing performance events like me too. So it's, train for high rocks or marathons, or, we had a guy finish an Ironman last week.
Nice.
And so whatever the performance or physique goal is, which, I hope it's both. We usually push our people to look good, and push them, mentally to chase something as well. Whatever that goal is, we can help them get dialed in and, be around for their family. I think we're much different than most health companies in that, we're not preaching the, get abs, bro, so you can be the coolest guy, and, confidence comes from being shredded, which is cool. Like, nothing wrong with that. Ours is more around impact. Like, how am I going to make an impact if my physical body is where it needs to be? If not, my body's going to be an anchor to me and hold me back from my family, from my businesses.
Yeah, we talk about weaponizing the body a lot. It's like, it's not about being jacked and lifting heavy shit. It's about like, can you work a 16-hour day and then show up and still command the, whatever the energy is required for you to make the impact you're trying to have. So there's just it's a completely different game. And again, when I talk about how mature you are, and I hate to keep saying that for your age, it's like the things that you are discussing and teaching and leading are things that most men my age, 40 plus, don't start to realize. Like, my priority shifted from trying to look cool to trying to perform better not too long ago, and if I would have made that transition in my 20s, what does that guy look like? I don't know. Yeah. So, what I'm hearing, by the way, and we'll get into the business thing, is like a sniper approach instead of spray and pray, right? Like, one thing that they definitely do different and better than I would say everybody is exactly when he says prescriptive approach is like, you'll hear me say this a lot if you've ever heard my Prosper framework. Step 1 is scan. And like, they do a very thorough scan on, their client, and not just, well, look at yourself in the mirror and do you want abs, like he said, but how's your blood work looking? Like, what's your hemoglobin levels? Like, literally, what's your GI, your gastrointestinal tract telling you? Yeah. There's so many things when you pop the hood that are affecting your performance, which is ultimately, aesthetics just become a byproduct. And so, we talked about this morning in the gym, and I'd like you to kind of expound on this, how you have made a transition from trying to focus on looking cool and aesthetics to just performing at peak performing.
Yeah.
And then, oh, by the way, I'll end up looking okay too, right? So can you kind of touch on that? Because I think a lot of guys might be missing that boat.
Yeah, it's tough. So I played Division I football, and it was all performance. And obviously, every guy wants to look good too, and there's part of that in your back of your mind, like I want big biceps, bro, or whatever. But that it was all, can I show up on the field and feel good, perform well? But I lost that after college when I started learning how to track macros, and I started getting these certifications, and how do I shape my body, and it became pendulum swing the other way of let's build the body, which is really cool. And I think it's good to have that skill set, but along the way lost, like, how am I feeling? How am I performing? What's under the hood look like? And I got into the trap of what most men that dedicate themselves to fitness fall into, is they only care about what the external looks like, and that's their metric of health. And so as I started to unravel that and see, we talked about GI tract and how messed up my gut was and how high my stress levels were. And as I started seeing all my Whoop data and how bad my recovery was, you start to see, man, I am shredded, but I don't really carry health, if you were going to describe it that way. And so there was a shift that happened for me whenever I first signed up for some running races that I was doing and realized how bad it was. Like, at that point, I was the leanest I'd ever been. I was 205, probably 7-8% body fat, doing some photo shoots for our company, and I started having to run, and 3 miles, and I was done. Like, I was gassed out, couldn't even make it more than
and
a couple blocks. Like, I was just, it was rough.
I've been there multiple times where I look amazing in the mirror, but it's like, pop the hood on this thing, and it's not there. I can't even. I would be gassed out kicking a ball with my son. Like, you're right, we're big soccer fans, and I go kick a ball with him. And, like, what's the point in, again, having abs if you can't even go to your mailbox without breathing heavy? Yeah. So, let's talk about that for a second, because we're built very similar. You guys probably can't see it all, but we're very, like, we're almost the same exact height. We usually weigh about the same. And, like, again, you're a former football guy, so it's like we're just built very, like, we can put on muscle,
dense.
Right? Yeah, very dense, right? And I watched you go from, like, where my physique was to, like, all the way down to super shredded, which I've done several times when I did the bodybuilding thing, right? The competitions, get to sub 5-6% body fat, look cool, do a photo shoot. But then your transition went to preparing for 100 mile, right?
Yeah.
Which is mind blowing to me. Like, as I was watching your journey from afar, I'm like, dude, there's no way. I didn't say there's no way you could do it, but in my head, my story was there's no way I could, at 240 pounds, even try to start training for 100 miles. So walk us through, that psycho decision, but also, how are you able to make that shift from, sub 5% body fat doing photo shoots for your fitness brand to, I'm going to throw all this away for a second and just focus? Because the guy that runs the 100 miles isn't usually veiny and jacked, right? Runner physique is not, there's a couple guys that kind of pulled off. Nick Bear comes to mind, right? He's a former, like, our build who went straight runner, but that was years. If you watch his journey, that was years. You did this in how many months did you go from?
So the first 100 I attempted was 2.5 months after I started running. So I went from 6% body fat shredded to 2.5 months trying to run 100 mile. I didn't finish it. I made it 79 miles, and my body said, you have not trained enough for this. And I was dragging. And it was one of those things where I could have finished, but I wouldn't have made the time cap, and my body was shutting down. So
what was your, in that moment, the 2.5 month, run at it, when you peeled off your shirt, and, like, how did you feel about your physique?
Hated it.
Yeah, right. So it was tough.
Yeah, it was tough. So granted, I didn't do it. There's a way to have both. I'm now on that journey to have both of them, and that's where I'm kind of figuring out the combination of performance and looking at an elite level. But at that point, I just fully took the physique hat off. Now, I still look better than 90% of the world. It's not like I got fat. It's just I said, I don't care as much about my abs. I don't care as much about biceps. I'm purely eating and training to perform for this thing.
Sure.
And so my calorie intake went way up. My macronutrients completely changed. I was fully focused on how can I fuel this next run? And I actually went overboard too in that, like, I went optimal fuel, which is not optimal for physique too. And so I got a little fluffy too. But that was a big mental shift for me, saying, like, don't pay attention to your physique. We only care about this one mission, which is finish the run.
What about, did you receive, see my favorite F word there, what type of feedback were you getting from all your, because again, we both grew up in the world of, like, stay sub 10 year round, bro. It's a discipline thing. Your body's a reflection of your discipline, and you should always have abs. But, like, what feedback were you getting from guys that were still in the aesthetic game more than the, performance game?
I don't think any of them really noticed, because I didn't have my shirt off ever. they were more just impressed by the feats of all the runs. I mean, I was
Yeah,
doing
the commitment to
half
that is-
marathons,
yeah.
the full marathons. I did a 50K. So all building up over this last year, I've done like 10 races, even leading up to the 100. And so none of them ever even said anything about the physique. It was more just mind blown that I was doing that type of training. Now I'm sure some of them could have been honest, like, hey, you got a little fluffy, but they were so
I
blown.
fucking told you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. Hey, bro, what are you doing over there? I know
Yeah.
you're training to run, but is that what it takes? Because now I really don't want to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So all of them were so blown away that like they're like, I don't, you just do what you're doing, bro. But now I'm on, like I said, on the journey to say let's bridle a little bit of that. There's a way to keep your macros dialed in and perform at a high level for some of these performance events. And so that's a tougher thing, is to ride that line of high level performance but still keeping leanness.
When I look at physiques that I admire, it's definitely like I did CrossFit for several years. The CrossFit guys seem to have it nailed. The only thing I'll say about CrossFit, and this was my experience as well, is the distended gut. And the reality is that I train with a lot of high level dudes, like professional CrossFitters competed at a very high level, especially when I was in Southern California. And they're not on gear. I mean, there's some out there. But what I'm saying is, everyone says, "Oh, the turtle belly is because of growth hormone and stuff." I was like, "No,
compound lifts. You grow those abdominal muscles."
Yeah, so you're growing abs. But I'd also argue one of my arguments now that I've learned everything about the GI tract is like it is inflammation because they are like
so much stress
on the body. Like, and that's why we're gonna get into high rocks right now. That's why I'm really intrigued by high rocks because it kind of seems like that blend of not too hardcore, because I also saw, and myself included, injuries left, right, and center in CrossFit. Like, it was in Forbes magazine, like top 10 money makers for like small business owners because the startup cost is relatively low. You go get a warehouse at 50 cents a square foot. You get some rogue weights on credit, and you sign up soccer moms at $150, $200. And the culture was cool, but I would see soccer moms go from lifting like a PVC pipe, right, just to learn mechanics, but then they go straight into how heavy can you lift and how fast can you do it.
Let's snatch for time.
And it was like mind blowing. Like you don't have the form, you have no foundation. So injuries were just boom, boom, boom. So I guess where I'm going with this is High Rocks seems to have found a pocket where I haven't really studied the High Rocks guys per se. We talked about this morning. You're saying they're a little more on the runner side that can also lift heavy.
Yep.
I don't know if I would want to go that route, but I'm really interested in like. I loved CrossFit. I still think the CrossFit physique, the guys that are elite, I still think that's an attractive physique. Minus, like I said, the inflammation. They're shredded, but they're still internally the internal like visceral fat still seems to be there to a degree.
It's the output that those guys have is unreal. I mean, it's why they look the way they look. But to your point, it's so much stress, and most of those guys don't. And this is all athletes. Like even when I was playing Division I sports, we didn't do a very good job on the recovery side. And so proper nutrition, taking time for, decreasing inflammation, good sleep quality. So, I mean, those guys have strong engines and are pushing hard. Most of them aren't doing enough of the internal health stuff to counteract that. I think it's starting to trend that way. It's getting more and more popular. A lot of them are getting
the education around that is through the roof now. Like we're both Whoop guys. You have your Whoop on. I've been with Whoop. It was 5 years in May.
Yeah.
So
like 3 years in.
Yeah. I'm a data junk. Like I have a Garmin on one hand, a Whoop on the other wrist, and I'm like always looking at the data. So I will say the awareness and the subject matter and the amount of knowledge that people have access to now. I think people are starting to focus more on recovery. Some of it's fad, like ice baths and stuff, but some of it's very effective.
Sure.
As you make this move into High Rocks, first of all, what are you weighing right now, and then what is the also? I don't want to keep talking about the aesthetics thing. My question to you is like, because we talked about this morning, and we're going to get into this too. I always struggle with, like, I'm 235 right now, and I'll get down to 210, 208. That's very common for me during the summer. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, meh, I'm over it. I want to go lift heavy shit. And I go right back to this thing, and then I hate how I look and feel at 240, 235.
Yeah.
And you've talked about this a year or two ago, and so I want to spend a minute here on the identity shift that's required for that to be who you are, not just something you do. Because it's always been something I do. Like I've never said I'm a runner, I'm a CrossFitter, or I'm a High Rocks athlete. I just say like
I'm a big dude.
I'm going to do that thing, and I get to that goal. I'm pretty good at knocking things out, but because I just treated it as a target or a check off, I check the box. Then I go right back to old programming, and then I'm like, I don't really want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So just talk a little bit about. Because you had to make a massive identity. You had to become a runner. Yep. And you might not be now because you're doing the High Rocks thing. But during that window, you went from bodybuilder to runner. And I don't know that most people understand what entails. You know?
No, it was a beautiful process for me because I teach this to our health clients. Most of them are going from out of shape to in shape. Some of them are already in shape but want to hit an elite level and, not just be a fit dude, but they want to be shredded and optimize energy levels and really take things from, 90th percentile to 99th percentile and be the guy that, people look to as a health pillar. I teach that for them as, hey, we can't just do different actions. We have to become a different person. And as a byproduct of you believing and becoming something, the actions look different. The behaviors look different. Belief shape behaviors, which, I know you teach a lot of that too. And so I talked about that so much, but I would get feedback from our clients like, you just don't get it. Like, you were never overweight, which that's actually not true. I had a season after football where I got pretty overweight. But even then, they're like, you've always been an athlete. You're teaching me to be an athlete. Some of them had never been a true athlete. They might have been semi-fit, but they never played a sport. And so teaching them to become an athlete is a real grind and a process, and we have a framework for it. But I got to actually walk that out in front of all of them too, to say, I am not a runner. I'm 220 pounds. I am, the furthest I'd ever run was like 3 miles, and now I'm going to push myself to train for this 100. I got to walk through that same process, which was harder than I thought it was going to be. When I first started, the guy who pushed me to do my first running race, he asked me, and my initial response was, I'm not a runner. Like, that's a joke. There's no chance. And I started to process through it. I'm like, I just declared something about my identity. That's why I won't do it. And that was that's actually what flipped the switch to say, well, I have to do it now, because I realized there's an area in my life where I have a belief system that I can't do something. And so I started on that same journey, and I went through the same process for us, which is we have 4 V's. It's visualize, vocalize, vote with your actions, and then vicinity, surround yourself with people that already do it. And so I started going down that journey. It's like I started seeing myself running races. I started speaking, I am a runner. This is who I am.
Sure.
I started voting for it. Like, I bought the shoes, I bought the gear, I hired the coach. I started changing my nutrition around it. I started following a running program from him, and then I started hanging out with other runners and putting myself in that environment. And it's wild to see how you start to think differently about the run. Like, I wasn't wrestling with each of the runs as much as I thought I would, because I'm like, this is what I do. It's just my training session.
Sure.
Now, the tough part about that is it's an ongoing process, and it takes time to continue that rewiring, because I actually finished the 100, and someone asked me like a month after that, and they're like, how do you feel after the 100? Like, you still doing any running? And the first thing that came to out of my mouth was like, yeah, I don't know. I really don't feel like a runner that much. And they like laughed on the other end of the phone. They're like, bro, if you ever say that again, like, we're not friends anymore. You just ran 100 miles. Do not ever say you're not a runner anymore. And so I recognize there's still like work to be done on that, but it was cool to see the belief system evolve in that, but I also recognize there's work to be done, because I still see myself as the 220-pound guy. Now, I've got the results, and it's stuck further, but I have to continue to do this rewiring. And I think I kind of swung the pendulum back the first couple months after the 100 to go back to like, all right, I'm just lifting now.
Sure.
And so now I'm in the process of, it's not runner anymore. It's athlete. Like, I'm a high performance athlete. I can't be the bodybuilder anymore. I've got to be functional. I've got to recover. I've got to run. I've got to be able to, have endurance.
Yeah, the word functional, like, real quick, I want to touch on that. So I think, one of the biggest distinctions, I feel like in my 20s, late 20s, early 30s, everything I did in the gym was around aesthetics. I want to look cool. I want to be jacked. I want to be sub-10, all the things, right? And then you start to see the performance waning as just naturally with age, right? I'm 44 as we record this episode. But where I'm going with this is I personally have noticed I'm more engaged and I'm more intentional with my actions when I have a performance metric tied 100%. To it. And that comes in a couple forms. A deadline, right? Like, so you have a high rocks competition coming up, but then like you're actually tracking performance metrics. Like, again, one of the things I loved about CrossFit is you're trying to PR. Now, can you do it safely? Well, I'll push back there. But it's when you're looking at data, feedback from a place of, am I progressing? Is there progressive overload? Am I shaving my time? Is my form better? Is my flexibility better? That is more mentally engaging, and it keeps me more engaged in this long-term journey than like, what's the scale say? Is there an ab yet? Cool, an ab. Like, what? I don't know. How do we? Because I would love for guys to listen to this, because I really think like a lot of men that are in the fitness game, like you said, are really trying to achieve an aesthetic and a physique that looks like this dude, right? And I started with that. I say, hey, the guys that that have the physique that I would like to have and to maintain is the CrossFit guys. Mm-hmm. But I didn't even mention the performance. I want to be able to run a sub 23-minute 5K while still, squatting 500 pounds. You know what I mean? And those are performance metrics that should lead to the physique that I want. Sure. So I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I think for me, it's The difference is you can have both doing the athlete way. You can only have one doing the physique way. Like if I just focus on physique, I'm not going to have the performance. But if I focus on the athlete side, the byproduct is an athlete looks good too.
Yep.
And I realized as I am now training for this high rock stuff, how much easier it is to maintain a physique when your focus is performance versus not getting the other. But I think the major benefit to this to me is not actually the physical piece. It's the mental switch that flips. Like when I committed, even the 100, but even more now with these high output stuff, there's an aggressiveness, or like I literally feel like I'm training for a football game again, and it unlocks something in your head to where that competitor hat gets put back on that doesn't get shut off.
How many times have you been mid-session and you hit a wall mentally and you found a way to push through it?
Every session.
Isn't that weird? Like again, I'm going to go back to CrossFit because I don't have a high rocks background yet. We're going to talk about that, but I try to tell people my CrossFit experience versus my bodybuilding experience versus, of course, I was an athlete my whole life too, but like the amount of times I said in my head, "Fuck this, I want to quit. This is stupid. I'm going to get hurt. What is this? Isn't doing anything for me." Like just the stories. And they were happening mid workout, right? I'm like, what is this WOD shit? Fuck this. And I would say that, and then like. You really learn a lot about yourself because then you have an option, dude. You have an option to set the bag down, to set the rack down, to walk away, or you push through and figure out what you're made of. And so to me, exactly what you're talking about, I think the mental component of it's okay to say that, by the way, and you're lying if you haven't said that multiple times or you're not training hard enough. The question is like, what do you do in that moment?
Well, I think it's a mirror, and I tell this. We lead monthly group workouts for our guys, and they'll come in and I'll put them through some sort of functional thing, or you run and do exercises and burpees and stuff. I'm not killing them, but just enough to get them to some sort of pain spot. And the first thing I say is think about what you're thinking about. And you talk about this all the time, the ability to separate yourself from your mind.
Yeah, become the observer.
Become the observer. And I say this is an exact mirror of every other time you hit adversity. How you are thinking in this workout when you hit that adversity line. It's the same thing that happens when you and your wife fight. The same thing happens when a deal falls through. The same switch flips. And so now you have an opportunity to practice that. The cool part about this is I put myself there intentionally. And so I am controlling the environment. So I'm pushing myself to the line. That's why I loved all the running training I was doing. And it's even more now in the high rocks is I'm saying I'm intentionally putting myself in that adversity and pain. Now I can see how I respond and train for that. And so now what happens in business or relationships or whatever is I've developed that part of my brain in a different way, which I actually heard a study that Huberman did recently on one of his podcasts.
Yeah, about doing hard shit. Yeah.
It's actually a part of your brain that gets developed, and it's a muscle that grows, and each time you do it, it develops and it gets easier.
It might be the amygdala, but I'll have to go back to that episode. But there's a section in your brain that you can grow that is responsible for when you do hard shit and how you can push through it. And you used the word intention. We talk about creating conditions that expose yourself. Like we preach the heck out of this, and this scares some people. Some people don't come to my live events because they're like, "Oh, that looks tough." I'm like, dude, that's why you need to be at the event. Or this is my favorite line. I love what you're doing, Nick. I really see it making a difference. It's just not for me.
It's not for me.
And that's just a big "I'm scared" line, right? And the ego says you don't need it because you're better than every other guy that's ever come to my event. Where I'm going with this is I firmly believe, and you've hit this on the head, as men, if we don't intentionally and consistently create conditions that expose ourselves, then the world will expose us.
Yeah.
And so like now you're talking about creating an environment you have complete control over being exposed. And now some guys won't do that publicly. So cool, go run by yourself and just know that when you hit that wall, how are you going to show up? But I would definitely say it's 10 times stronger when you can do it. Like you just talked about a group workout. I think you ran in Tulsa recently, right?
Yeah, every month.
So it's like guys are so scared to be exposed in front of another dude. But if it's a safe environment and everyone in there is going to get exposed anyway, or they're exposing themselves, and it like you just kind of let your guard down, and I think that's where guys freak out. That's the best place you can do it because those are the guys that are going to force you to show up different, to push through those walls, and to hold up that mirror over and over. And how do we're not going to solve this on this podcast, but just talking to my guys listening to this right now, how do we get more guys to create conditions of exposure? Like my events are called EVs, which is exposing your truth. It's a Latin phrase, but my goal is to expose men, and not in an ugly way or a way that makes you feel shameful or naked or afraid or fucking guilty, whatever the things are. Exposure is feedback. It's beautiful feedback. When I hit a 5K right around mile 2, I want to quit. Cool. That's just feedback, bro. Process the shit out of that. Why do you want to quit? Well, is it your knee? Is it your cardio? Is it just a story that you're married to? Like, just push a little. Like, I don't know, man, where I'm going with this, but like, have you been able to, we're doing it. We're just not doing it in a large enough scale. And it's frustrating for me because I can't help guys see how vital it is to create consistent, intentional exposure.
Yeah. The problem is there's some people who, until they see a need for it, are never going to desire it. Like until they reach that point of change where they're willing to get uncomfortable enough, it's not going to matter. And I always say this all the time. And you've heard the phrase, like until the pain to stay the same is worse than the pain to change, then nobody really is going to do anything.
Sure.
And so that's not something we can necessarily control. But the people that are saying, hey, I'm ready to change, I think the first step is get the feedback. Like put yourself in an environment that you can step in.
But if you're not in your pit, how do you flip that switch?
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of the people we attract are the guys that are already good. Like you said, you've got guys that come to you that are already athletes. They just want to go from 90 percentile to 99th.
Yeah.
So they're going from good to great. But that's a rare group. How do we get all the guys that, like, to your point, until I'm in my pit and it's so painful that the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of trying some new shit?
Yeah.
I'm not really going to make a move, Nick. I'm not going to make a move, Cole. You can talk all you want on this podcast. I'm going to stay here because it doesn't hurt bad enough. That's where I'm struggling. That's where I'm just trying to grow what we do for a living and the impact we're trying to make. How on earth do we grab a guy before he has to get all the way to rock bottom and sit there long enough to say, fuck it, enough is enough?
Yeah, to me, they have to walk through some mental stuff to ask, where do I really want to be? What is my current situation costing me? Like, am I okay with settling at this? And so unpacking some of that. But the thing that helps me the most is asking, if I'm in the same spot 20 years from now, how does that feel? And immediately that like 10x is the pain of what I'm experiencing. Because even like in physique times for me, back to the fitness piece where I've been, 10 pounds overweight, where, abs are soft and not, but no one sees it, shirt's not off. Like it's hard to motivate yourself to flip that switch sometimes. I've had to ask myself, like, what is this costing me? How much do I think about it? Even further, what does this look like 10 years from now if I'm in the same spot? Am I willing to continue being this guy? And so it kind of stretches that.
But
that
can you
out.
actually feel something like a visceral feeling if you fast forward 10 years? I think guys would struggle with that visualization. Like if I stayed, and this is most men, by the way, I call this your program's plateau. Like you by the time 30, 35 hits, you're driving the same car with the same car payment. You've got the same house. That's never going to change. You're probably having sex with your wife the same amount of times. Oh, by the way, she's not initiating anymore. Like you kind of just like, this is your life was doing this, and all of a sudden this is it. And it's probably going to be like that for the rest of your life because you won't wake up. But it's just comfortable enough, or it's not uncomfortable enough for you to ever say, oh, no, we're going to new levels.
Well, I think it's part of that is I can see, because I'm around so many other people that are so much further than me in every single area, when I look at that 10 years, I see myself of like, oh, wait, if I'm here 10 years, I'm so far behind.
Sure.
Like I am nowhere near reaching my potential. And I think part of that visceral feeling you talked about that I feel is some from that is a healthy comparison.
Well, you put yourself in rooms at
yeah.
20-some years old with 45-year-old millionaires, right? And so it's like, okay, and so that's a big part, guys, around why you need to surround yourself with, and you use the word vicinity. Yeah. Like you need to put yourself in the vicinity of people that are either like-minded or reality is light years ahead of you.
Yeah.
And like you said, healthy comparison.
Yeah. You shouldn't come away thinking like I'm a failure, but it's more inspiration.
Inspiration.
Like, when I first joined that multiple club with Long, and that's where I met you, and you were coaching there. That I met guys like you, and
it was $100,000 a year ticket.
With Eddie Wilson and all these incredible business guys that I met. I went away as a 25-year-old, and I was like, oh my gosh, not beating myself up, but inspired to say, here's
look what's possible by the time I'm 35, 40.
Yeah, and so that plus, I have also, I think, accelerated the curve that you talk about, that people make all the money and they come back around asking like, what impact can I make? I have somehow figured out how to accelerate that curve. That thing lights me up more than money does.
Sure.
And so it's twofold. It's like seeing what's possible there, but also recognizing like if I'm not my best, I'm missing out on all this impact. Some of it's the story of losing my dad and seeing how much he missed his impact because of not taking care of his health. I think both of those for me help accelerate that pain to say, here's what could be possible based off of what I'm seeing from other people. And then two is, am I willing to miss out on all that impact because I was coasting? Because I can tell in the gas pedal, brake pedal of when I'm pushing harder to be my best, the impact gets exponentially bigger because people are inspired by it. I show up differently versus coasting at that 80%. There's a sharpness I lose. The opportunities decrease. And so I've been able to be visibly transparent enough with myself to say, hey, if I phone it in here and don't keep growing, like there's people that are going to miss out on this.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that real quick because it's another level of exposure. I think that it's the next level of accountability, but it scares the shit out of most people. So like for you to... You could have done this a different way, and a lot of guys could do this a different way. You could have like thrown in the towel for a minute on the bodybuilding thing and gone about your 100-mile thing, and you could have done it in your private life. But by doing it publicly and constantly talking about it, like to me, that's the ultimate accountability because, and we talked about this briefly, is like there was times where you wanted to phone it in, and by we mean hang it up, we mean quit, we mean stop. Yeah. But once you've announced it to your whole following and you've built a team that's supporting you, whether it's your nutrition or people running alongside you 20 miles at a time to keep you going, your cadence, your pacing, whatever it is, there are people that believe in you sometimes more than you believe in yourself. And again, the word exposure is just going to keep coming up on this episode for me. The ultimate accountability is just to just go like this. The whole world, this is what I'm going for. Yeah. I might shit the bed, guys, but I'm doing it, right? And this is almost like the man in the arena concept. Like, look, 100%. You can judge, and there's going to be some haters. There's going to be people that talk shit. There's going to be people that maybe are secretly wishing that you don't pull this off, right? But like to me, that's power. That's superpower, and it super scares the shit out of people. Yeah. But if they only knew how powerful it was to be vulnerable, to expose yourself and say, I'm going to run 100 miles as a 225-pound bodybuilder. Yeah. Watch me. Yeah.
Well, I think the cool part about that for me was when I first made that declaration, I was still kind of on the fence on if I was going to do it, but I had a moment of inspiration. And I've learned that for me, especially getting out of those mediocre spots when you're pushing to a level, all of us get these like shining glimpses of let's do it, I'm ready. Yeah, and then we kind of get busy and we fall off. What I've noticed is if I will go ahead and declare and commit and speak it out in that moment of inspiration, then I'm like, there's no going crap, back. I can't go back on it now. And so I capitalize on those moments. Same thing with High Rocks. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but I went ahead and announced it on the day that I was excited about it, because then a week later I wasn't super excited anymore. I'm like, well, I already said I'm doing it. We signed up and bought the ticket.
What do you say to the guy who is willing to do that, but then has a story that he might not meet the expectations that either he has for himself or others may have on him? So let's say you have a guy that wants to do his first High Rocks, and he declares he's going to do, what is it, October at Atlanta? Right?
Yeah, there's a September in Boston, October in Atlanta, November in Dallas.
And how far are we out as we film this for the Atlanta one? 10 and a half?
Atlanta one, I think, weeks? 12 weeks.
12 weeks. 12 right. So, and 12 weeks is about the gap to train for just about anything if you go.
Yeah. 14 weeks, yeah.
Okay, so that's even better, right? So you got 2 weeks to kind of get your shit together, right? And 12 weeks to go hard. But what I'm saying is, I think one of the common stories might be if you have an athletic background and people have an expectation of how you're going to perform at this Atlanta thing, like, and you shit the bed. You know what I mean? Like, I guess what I'm saying is, how have you fast forwarded that far? Did those stories stop you? These are, by the way, I'm processing this live in real time, ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen. That would be a story I would have, is like, I have a history of pretty much crushing everything, whether it's cocky or not. And so, like, if I say I'm doing High Rocks with you in Atlanta, I don't even know what an acceptable time is, first of all. It's for all my High Rocks guys that are probably talking mad shit right now. Yeah. But if I say I do that, the first story that pops into my mind is I'll get it done because I always execute, but I have a standard for myself, and if I don't meet that, I'm going to be pissed, frustrated, cranky, whatever. And also, what is everyone else's standard for me, and how do I meet that? You know what I mean?
It's tough. I've thought a lot about that. I think that's been part of, and I mentioned to you today, I've been beating myself up a ton on, and I told my coach the other day, I'm like, I am so out of shape, this is awful. And he said, stop comparing yourself to the pro guys that have been doing this for 5+ years. It's not fair. And so I have a lot of those same mental battles, but I think the truth is no one cares. Like, no one truly cares.
Yeah, no one's going to look at my time and be like, Nick sucks.
Yeah, and even if they do, like, what does that really matter? The only one beating yourself up is you, and it's expectations you put on yourself. But I think the truth is it's good. Like, if you fail and do a terrible time, like, great, you got some feedback, and now you.
What's funny is we both teach this. Like, don't compare your chapter 2 to somebody's chapter 22. So I know I'm not going to keep up with the guys that moved over from CrossFit, that have done 18 High Rocks competitions already. I just have a standard for myself. So it's like, it's just, I'm giving you like real life stories as we're processing this, because we joked about this at the gym this morning, and it's like, okay, there's a story that comes up. The story is, I'll get it done. I won't, if it comes out of my mouth, it'll get done, but to what degree do I get it done? Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think for me, it's a healthy drive to say, like, I don't want to let other people down. You know, I don't want to fail in their eyes. You know, you've got to play the mental games to control and make sure it doesn't become the unhealthy side of like, I'll stop myself from doing it because if I fail, everyone's going to look at me weird.
I think I'll go the other end. I'll be so obsessed with it, other things will fall by the wayside.
Yeah,
because that's kind of like, you know, you call it shiny, whatever, object syndrome. Like when I get a hold of something, you know what I mean, and that's anything, and it doesn't always serve me.
I think that's the beauty for me and why I hired a coach. Like I could self-program. I started to, but then I realized I'm going to obsess about this. I need someone else to tell me what to do and tell me when to pull back. Because there's multiple times where I've tried to do more, and he's like, "No, you're not doing anything this weekend. Rest, recover." And I'm like, "I need to run." He's like, "No, you don't. You need to recover." And so part of that is that's why I hire coaches too. Is to you tell me the game plan, even though I can make it my own. I'm going to obsess about this. If I don't, you give me the healthy balance, which has been super helpful for me.
Yeah, that's an interesting frame because the reality is your coach is equally as powerful in telling you when to calm down than he is in just programming.
Probably more.
Yeah.
I could program great workouts. I will probably push myself too far without a coach. Now, not every athlete or person is like that. Other people will phone it in. But if I'm creating my own program, I'm constantly obsessing about it, thinking I should be doing more, mad that I'm not hitting times, where if there's a coach there that can program that for you, he's got an expectation. He's pushing you to that level. And most of the time he's pulling me back more than
Well, he also can process your feedback and be like, hey, dude, your body's telling you need a rest. Knock it off. And you're like, no, all I know is run through brick walls. Yeah. I'm a hard ass, right? And then you end up doing more. I'm definitely guilty of overtraining before I undertrain. You know?
100%.
My wife says that's a big part of my inflammation. She's like, dude, every time someone gives you a
cortisol
program,
levels.
you think above and beyond is the answer because that's how you're wired, and then you actually do
better.
damage. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I told my girlfriend this the other day too. I'm like, I'm gonna add another running day, and she's like, you should probably just follow the program. And I was like, no,
trust the process, bro.
The same thing.
What does that even mean?
What's so cool about this process is when you are a coach and you hire other coaches, one, it's incredible for you. Two, you get the opportunity to take your own advice. And so when I hired him, he asked me, hey, we've got 2 tracks. We've got the endurance track, we've got the strength track. And my response was both. Well, originally I said, well, here's what so I started to write out this response of like what I think, and then I deleted it and I said, you're the coach, I'm the athlete, you just tell me exactly what to do and I'll follow it. And he was like, I love it.
I've done that multiple times, and I think what's interesting, and by the way, we're both coaches, right? We consult, we coach guys. The question is, and again, it's another opportunity for feedback and holding up the mirror. How coachable are you? And because like we can't stand that. I can't stand when I give somebody a prescription, like
they do their own thing,
dialed in, and they're like, "Cool, bro," and then they go and do their own thing, or they don't execute at all. I'm like, "Well, you're not coachable. If you're not coachable, we can't work together because it doesn't matter what comes out of my mouth and what strategy we." So my question to you is, over the years, and by the way, I hope you guys are hearing this. Both of us have coaches for different things in our lives, and we coach for a living, and we coach in all areas: faith, family, fitness, and finance. Like we're teaching all of this stuff. We're well versed in all of it, but that means shit because we all need someone else to hold us accountable. We need someone to tell us to calm down, quit overtraining. We need someone to kind of like make it simple, stupid, so it's one less thing for us to think about instead of building your own program. It's like, dude, tell me what to do, and I'll just do it. But that's my question: scale of 1 to 10, in your experience, how coachable are you?
I think the beauty of the kind of athlete that I was is I had to be coachable. Like I was not the best athlete. I'm a good athlete, but I was a 5'11" white receiver that ran a 4.6, 4.65. So I was not a freak. I was consistent, great hands, good, explosive quickness, just like was never going to freak athlete anybody. And so to play at the level, I played a year at a Division II school. I played at Division I as well. I was by far the worst athlete in the receiver room. The only way, even in high school, the only way that I was able to excel was I would execute at the highest level, whatever the game plan was. Like if the strength programming, I was doing every single set rep at the highest level, fully dialed in, never missed a session. Same thing with practice is like I'm executing perfectly. And so I think I'm wired in that way a little bit. If someone gives me a game plan, like I will do it perfectly. And that was
scale of 1 to 10.
I mean, I would say I'm 9. And I think there's levels that I still, because I have those conversations if I need to do more, that's the growth edge is I still try to do extra and I have to pull myself back. But I think I would say 9 out of 10. And that was the feedback I got from my running coach that I hired, which was, he was incredible. He's like, with how much you travel and how busy you are, like I'm impressed by how much you just stuck to the game plan and did what you were told. And I'm like, yeah, that's great.
So my fitness guy, Adam, that's doing all my fitness stuff right now, he says I'm extremely coachable. I listen to him. I think for me, what I've learned about myself on the receiving side of this, how coachable am I? Mm-hmm. It takes a lot for me to even land on a coach, number one, and maybe it's ego, but we've done so much, and I've operated at a high level. Yeah, so that comes to mind. I'm like, yeah, dude, if you don't know more than me, then I'm definitely not paying you or listening to you. But also, like, you have to show up a certain way with a certain energy that even commands that I respect you, if that makes sense. And so I'm just really picky on who I choose, number one. But what I've learned over time is I'm getting better at being coachable, but I'm not. And then I ask myself, holy shit, how if a client showed up like this for you, like, and didn't trust your process and whatever. I'm wrestling this right now. There's a young guy that wants me to coach him, right? He's doing $5 million a year. He's stuck. He wants to get to the next level. But the more I talk to him, the more it seems like he wants to prove to me that he knows more than me in a lot of areas. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't think the guy's coachable, and not coachable by me is what I'm saying. And that's hard because I know I can add value to him. I know we can really do some big stuff, but I'm now starting to look at it through the lens of if you're not coachable, and he checks every box. He has the revenue. I know where his pain points are, and I can solve those quickly, which means I can accelerate, and everything looks good on paper. But if I'm fighting with you every week around what I'm asking you to do and you're not doing it, then we don't exactly. So like, it's interesting. I think another reason, even if you're in the leadership role, whatever industry you're in, you should always have people that are holding you accountable, because it also exposes in you how coachable are you. You know what I mean?
It's powerful. Well, I think too, because I've adopted that mindset, like I hire people that even if I have better results than them in that area, if they know one specific thing that can excel me, like I'll do whatever. Like I hired a guy recently as a business consultant. Both of my businesses are bigger than his.
Sure.
Coaching businesses, or the health business is pretty close, and then the consulting business is probably 3x what he does. And I hired him, and we got our first call, and I'm like, you just tell me what to do. Like the thing I'm hiring you for, you're an expert at, and you do only that one acquisition channel. You just tell me what to do, and I'll follow it. And so removing the ego for me, I think, has helped accelerate results, because I will literally just do exactly what they tell me. But to your point, there are some mental battles of like, well, our business is bigger. Maybe I don't know.
I also too, I think it's your past experiences. Like when you've doled out money in these arenas that you claimed, like I'll hold my hands up and say like, marketing's not my strong suit, right? Yeah. So it's like, cool. And then you get burnt 3 or 4 times. It's like, man, because I preach this a lot to my guys. You have to at least have enough competency in a subject matter to inspect what you expect. Mm-hmm. And so if I hire a guy and he's promising a 6x ROAS or whatever, right? I'm like, okay, how can I even hold him to that KPI? Yeah. I don't know what a ROAS is. I mean, I do now, but what I'm saying is you need to at least know enough about a subject matter to be, because I think that's where a lot of people get burnt is like, like how do you know that the High Rocks guy coach that you're using right now is worth his salt? Right? Like how did you vet this guy?
Yeah, because of his results. Okay. And so I've seen his High Rocks times. I've seen how he competes. So I didn't hire him for necessarily his knowledge. I didn't vet that and ask like, hey, tell me about your training protocols. I just saw the results he was getting, and I've seen him train other athletes. And they've got multiple people that have done, world qualifying times that they've trained. And so I'm like, okay, you've done it for some other guys. You're local. Like you're better than what I will do on my own.
So local was a checkbox you wanted.
Local was a checkbox because I can show up, and I'm driven by community too and some competition. And so him and a couple other guys are training, and they're at world's level to where I know that I'm going to get my butt kicked every time I go work out with them and be pushed at a higher level. And then 2, I've seen the results from him and his, the people.
So local coached. Was a checkbox for you, right? And then results. And so by the way, just again for anyone listening, if you are thinking about hiring a coach, whether it's for business, whether it's for fitness, whether it's for faith, for family, there's a lot of different guys out there that specialize. There's guys that do it all. You need to figure out what exactly is your non-negotiable. Sure. Like local's non-negotiable for me, right? Yeah. The other thing is, has he taken X amount of guys to the level that I'm trying to get to? Because if he hasn't proven to be the guide, then he's not my guide. Yeah, he might be a cool dude, and he might be. By the way, he might be phenomenal. He may have won some shit. This is another thing I think people mess up.
But if you can't help people get there,
he might be phenomenal at competing. But if he's not able to build programs and walk alongside other people to get them to that level, he's not a coach. He's just a badass athlete.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I valued the local piece the most because I wanted a place to use the gear and to be pushed by other people doing it. And then the coaching capacity was second, which he happened to have. But one thing I didn't mention, which is every coach, like there's some basic morals and standards and identities that I won't cross. Like, the fact that he's a, faith-based person, loves his wife, has a great family, like super involved in his church, kind person, great image. So like he had the basics there before I went into performance and localness. Same thing with all the other coaches. Like every coach I pay right now has those
core value alignment.
Has those core values. They're strong. Like I typically, unless it's a hyper specific technical thing, I don't really hire coaches that don't have strong relationship with Christ, because I've gotten bad advice that might be great business but doesn't really align with who I am morally. It's like I'm not willing to cut that edge if it means more money. That's not worth it to me. So that's not the type of person I'm going to take advice from. And so, I think every person hiring a coach has to have some basic standards to say.
Yeah, for everybody listening to this, and there's a powerful exercise on how to do this. You should know what your core values are. Like at your core, pick 3 to 5 things that you absolutely value in other people, but obviously, hopefully, you're embodying those, and then those should be the baseline for engaging with anybody, whether it's hiring someone for your organization, hiring a coach, just friends. Like ask yourself right now, in my top 5 people I hang out with, do we align from a place of core values? And those core values could be your relationship with God, could be how you treat your body, could be how you treat your wife, how do you show up for your babies. There's a lot of different things you can do. One of the easiest ways, and I'll get in and out of this pretty quick, is there's an exercise where you go back to, maybe 7 to 14 years old, your childhood, and you pick 3 or 4 people that were kind of role models for you, that you aspired to be like in some way, shape, or form. And you basically make a list of 5 or 6 characteristics or traits of that individual. And when you do this times 3 or 4 people, you'll start to see, man, a lot of these people had the same thing, whether it was leadership or belief in self, or they were kind to others, service to others, they were God-fearing, right? So whatever it is, you'll start to see these common things, and that really helps you form your core values because you were drawn to them for a reason. So that's kind of a shortcut for those of you listening that want to kind of like, well, where do I start? How do I build core values? And then you could do this with your family. Like another thing we take our guys through is building out family core values. Every family should have literally like a family shield hanging up in their house. And if your kids are of age, and of age could be 6 or 7 and older, they should have some input into what are the Alfano, right, or the Cole Taylor, like the family values. And when you get there, imagine raising your kids and they know what the family's values are at such an early age that when they hit the teenage years or 18, 19, 20, going off to college, and they're constantly in these situations that conflict, they have this guidepost of these 5 or 6 things that are non-negotiable for them. I won't do that because it goes against my core. And they'll feel this. The more you instill these core values into your kids at a young age, they'll actually have a visceral reaction when when they find themselves in groups or around people that are in conflict, with their core values. And all of a sudden they're walking this fine line now, and they're still going to step away from it from time to time. But I promise you, it's one of those powerful things you can do. So I'm glad you brought that up, because you had the proximity and results. But then, oh, by the way, hold on.
Values.
If he doesn't align with me from a core value standpoint, I can't mess with him anyway.
It's a filter for you. I mean, I filter every decision I make through my values, through my purpose. Same thing with the organizations that we coach. Like that is their filter. We walk them through that same values exercise to determine, who they're going to hire, who they fire, what decisions they make, what products they start. Like, does it actually fit those values? And
this is on the business consulting side, right?
Business consult, yeah. I mean, so I kind of we have the fitness piece we talked about. I have a men's ministry group that I just pour into dudes, Bible study, hang out. We just love on guys, and I have daily devotional, weekly Bible study, monthly gatherings, and then the fitness coaching, and then the organizations I get to coach as well. We do that on the individual level for the men's ministry guys, but then the organizations, we walk them through that same value exercise, because I believe that who should drive the do. Like that's back to the identity conversation. You're creating the organization's identity is these are our values. And Simon Sinek says culture is values plus behaviors. Culture equals values plus behaviors. And so that culture is the who. I define my do out of that. And then you get a group of people acting in a certain way. It creates this new environment. And what's interesting, if for those of you that own businesses that are listening to this, how many times have you, myself included, until I learned about these concepts, you hire off of what they can do. Like the guy's resume, he's a savage. He's a good closer. He's got 6 years management. The number one place to start is the business's core values, which are typically in alignment with yours. And if they don't line up with those, then you can pre-screen them out of the gate. Like you can take them through an exercise, a series of questions before they even get to the face-to-face interview. And if they already red flag
against your core values, I don't care how savage they are on paper and what they do. Like, it's who are they? You know?
Well, you guys have all heard the phrase "right people, right seat." I got to get the right people in the right seat. There's a reason why right people is first.
Yeah.
And our assessment as right people is, do they fit our values?
Yeah.
And so before I even talk about their aptitude, capacity, enthusiasm, which is how we rate right seat, is, do they have the skills, trade, are they wired that way? Do they actually want the job? Like, before I get there, I got to ask, do they fit our values? Because it doesn't matter how good they are.
Yep.
They're going to be a cancer to the organization if they don't fit the values first.
Yeah, and again, that's where I think on my entrepreneur journey over 20 some years too is like probably the first 20 of my 28-year journey was like
just skills.
The guy's a savage. Plug him in. And it's one of those plug him in and we'll see if it works. Like, as long as he performs like he says he does here, or the way he carried himself in the interview. But I wasn't asking the right questions, and then the amount of energy that goes into letting someone go and then trying to find someone else and onboarding them, like the amount of money associated with that. It's like, just find the right people out of the gate. Even if he's a subpar performer, but he aligns, your job is to build the savage. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I learned that at a younger age in sports teams. I never was a part of one of the teams, except for maybe 1 or 2 years, that had the best athletes. We just always had the best buy-in culture.
Yeah.
We played together well, and I realized, like, culture beats talent every day. Like, and I've heard people say culture eats talent for breakfast.
Yep.
And so I'm recognizing, even the organizations we coach, how many times we've gotten rid of those toxic high performers, and the performance of the whole team increases, because that culture 100% will trump any sort of individual talent.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm a soccer guy, so most people won't be able to relate to this, but you see this a lot at the highest level where, there's like Real Madrid and stuff. They call them the Galacticos. They'll go out and spend exorbitant amounts of cash, and they'll find the number one guy in all. There's 11 starters, right? Let's find the number one striker, the number one winger, and they build this team of absolute whatever. But there's no cohesiveness. There's no culture. And then some team that's got a bunch of B and C rated guys that have a strategy, that believe in it so much, and the culture, they'll come smack these guys, and it's just hilarious because the amount of money that's spent building that dream team.
Yeah.
For what, dude? You can't get those guys to connect. They're all out for self. They're all, you know what I mean?
Well, I saw this movie. It was a rowing team in college, and they were doing new tryouts, and they had like this JV rowing team, and they were competing against the varsity rowing team. And it, like, basically they put these hodgepodge guys who had never rowed before versus like the all-stars. They'd done it their whole life, and it ended up, like, not only did they beat the varsity team out, but they actually went and won, whatever the world championship was. But the whole premise of the movie was, like, they had built this bond together, and the guy who was calling the, I don't know what it's called, but in the rowing, there's someone at the front of the boat that does the signal and cadence, like, got them to be bonded together to where they were moving at such the perfect cadence and rhythm that they actually beat the people that were way more talented. And so I think it was such a good analogy for teams, is like, it's never about the raw talent of individuals or even the raw talent of the group. It's the cadence of consistency.
And the raw talent will get you.
It helps.
It'll get you so far. In a perfect world, you want to build a perfect culture and develop the talent. But again, I think as business owners, our job is to foster, nurture, develop the talent, right?
100%.
But make sure you hire from a place of culture first and fitment.
And we always put people, and there's an assessment we do from one of our certifications that we chart that, like a chart culture fit and chart skills or talented. Like, if I cut someone open and they bleed our company, that'd be a 10 out of 10, and our highest performers are 10 out of 10 here. And you want people that really kind of can fit both. And the higher you get on that, and you that's where you can really win at a high level.
That's the winner.
But I would rather have less
less
talent
less
and
skill.
higher culture, because then I can always develop that. As long as someone has the aptitude, and that's where we kind of separate things.
Again, are they coachable though too?
Yeah.
Right? That could be a part of your core values, by the way. Is this person even? How do you ask powerful questions if you're hiring? Let's go away from you're deciding to get a coach, and let's say you're building your team. Is the staff that you're choosing, are they coachable? Because if they're not coachable, who cares about their skill set? You know what I mean? Like, you can only develop it so far because they're not going to listen. And then they have to choose when they want to develop it further, because they're going to coach themselves only, And
I think you have to have the ability to separate aptitude and skill set. It's like, do they have the natural wiring to be able to take this on? Do they have the mental abilities to be able to do this? Then I can just teach them the technical skill.
Sure.
And it's not that you hire people that have no idea what they're doing, but I would rather have someone who's hungry, driven, like mentally capacity there, but might just be greener in the thing, and develop them into a killer than hire someone that is not a cultural fit that's a killer. It depends on if you want a short-term win in your business or a long-term system to build. I think that's the thing we have to push for a lot of our companies, is like, yes, if you hire this person now, for the next 6 months, you'll see big wins. Your culture will get torn apart, though, and you're going to crush things in the process. Or hire this other guy that fits things we can train into. The first 3 or 4 months will be a little slower, But in 3 years, we look up, you're going to be in a much better place. So it depends on if you want the short-term win or the long-term win.
But like you said, that short-term win comes at a long-term cost. It always does.
Yeah.
Interesting. I know I don't even think we're all over the map. I think we really hit exposure pretty hard. Can you intentionally expose yourself?
Yeah.
If you are going to expose yourself, what are you learning about yourself, and then what are you doing with that knowledge, right? How are you processing feedback? And then if you're going to go out and try to level up as a result of that exposure, and you want to hire somebody, how are you making those decisions? I mean, dude, there's a lot of meat here. I want to wrap up with your transition. And by the way, High Rocks, maybe just explain what High Rocks is, because we just belabored it beat the crap out of it for an hour, and some people don't even know what it is. It's so new. So maybe touch on that, and then talk about the events you have coming up. Maybe we'll commit me to the October Atlanta one. And then I'll decide whether to air this podcast or not as a result.
So High Rocks it's a functional fitness race. It's about half running and then half functional fitness exercises. And so you alternate in 8 different stations, and each station is a 1 kilometer run and then an exercise. 1 kilometer run, exercise, and you go to 8 rounds. And so basically you'll be running in this loop of a 1K, and then you come into an exercise and you repeat that 8 times. And the exercises range from sled push, sled pull, rowing, ski erg, wall balls, walking lunges, burpee broad jump, and I'm missing one, but there's 8 different stations where you're pushing your body, and it's never like the sled push and sled pull are pretty intense weight.
Is that very similar framework when you see them in different cities and states?
So different than CrossFit is it's identical race every single time.
Oh, okay.
Same weight, so you can actually train for it. And so the times are across the board just getting faster and faster because people are developing.
Yeah, so you go by the exact kettlebell weight.
Same kettlebell, same sled.
Map out a 1 kilometer. You get a ski erg. So you just get the elements, and and that's what's coming in 12 weeks versus like
100%.
I might remember I'd done CrossFit games where like they wake up and then he releases the workout and you're like, I'm gonna kill this dude because I wasn't ready for this.
I was
yeah.
I was supposed to do a burpee backflip. I got to learn a backflip tonight. It's something, and that's why it's so much more accessible to people too. Is there's no Olympic lifts, there's no barbells. The only thing you'll use weight wise is a wall ball, a kettlebell, and a sandbag. And so they're really not crazy heavy weights. Now you got to have the sleds too, which is a little different if you don't have turf. But most people can train for that in their home gym and be fine. And you don't.
What's the ones that you couldn't do at home? So the sled
push. And
you can, but I mean, like,
you have to have
requires a
turf,
little more.
and you'd have to have the sled and a lot of weight. I mean, the pro level weight is 500 something pounds. I think 530 or 550 for the sled push. And so it's a significant amount of weight. But I mean, a kettlebell and a sandbag and a wall ball.
It all fits in your corner of your room.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to buy a ski erg and a rower.
Are they Concept 2s? What are they using?
Yeah, they use Concept 2s.
Okay, yeah. So those are $800 new.
They're not. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not awful.
Yeah.
I'm considering just building a CrossFit or a High Rock circuit in my garage, just because there's not a whole lot of machines that you need.
What about the sled pulls? Because there's the legit ones and there's the wheel ones that have the resistance.
Slides on the turf.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if you had to switch it up a little bit because you don't want to do the turf thing. Yeah.
I mean, before I joined this gym that had the proper stuff, I was doing one of the wheel ones out of Lifetime because I still have that membership as well.
Yep.
It's not the same, but it's this, it still can practice.
Yeah, it's better than not doing the sled thing and having a story around that. But it sounds 100%. Like most of it can be in a 10x10. Yeah. Obviously, the wall ball you got to go outside and throw it up against your house
garage or whatever. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, so I mean, it's been interesting to train for. I will say the hardest part for me is I've done now both ends of the spectrum. I've been in high capacity like sprint explosiveness from football, where you don't really run longer than 2 or 3, 5 seconds at the max.
Sure.
And even our conditioning, the furthest we'd ever go is a 300-yard shuttle. Most days, 99% of the time, conditioning the max was 110-yard sprints. Even like that was high conditioning. Yeah. So I've done the short distance stuff. Really we're doing a lot of 20 and 40-yard stuff. And then now I've done
100 miles,
zone 2, 100 miles, so extreme, and obviously there's longer races, but
I think
99.999%
I don't know too many people that have done
world, yeah. So, but the hard part for me, and it's why I'm totally reshaping my body, is now being able to find this middle piece of fast and middle distance. It's just a different level of elite. Like I can go run for, you could put any distance in front of me now. I'm convinced with enough training, even like we talked about this earlier. I thought about maybe I could do a 200 mile or 250. Like it's going to hurt, but I like body is
But
capable
what that's going
of
to do
that.
for your physique for a year, not aesthetically, but it's going to take you away from the high rocks training. Is what I'm saying.
I have no desire to do that, but all I have to say is I'm convinced now with enough fuel and training, I can go whatever distance is needed, and I have friends that do that and beyond. I know I can do explosive sprint work, but now to say, hey, I need you to run, 1 kilometers at a basically full out sprint is what you're running. I mean, you're running like those pro guys are running 5.5 minute mile paces for those 1 kilometers right into a sled push, and then right back into running.
But not 8 times. They're running 5-minute mile pace
all 8
on
times.
a 1 kilometer.
Yeah. So it's not. Yeah. So basically, you're going 2/3 of a mile exercise, 2/3 of a mile exercise, and so that's where I'm pushing my body to where I can't be 215, 220. Like I need to get to 190 probably to be the level of 195 to be the level of runner that I would like to be. Because right now
Dude, I haven't seen 199 on the scale since high school.
7, like the splits that I'm running, like 7.5 minute mile pace, I am struggle busing. It's like that's what those 1K splits right into a sled push. Like, so I've got a good amount of work to do, and it's just a totally different game.
Is there a cap on it? Like if I go and shit the bed in Atlanta, do they blow? No. They shoot a gun. They're like, if you haven't finished,
you're out. Just go ahead and lay down.
Please go home.
No, that's what's cool about this is they started it as a general population thing first, and so there's people that'll take 2.5 hours to finish it. Now, the elite
turn the lights off on you.
Just
like, all right, bro, you're fucking.
All right, go home. But the elites are doing it in 55-ish minutes. But there's some people that'll take 2 hours plus. They won't shut you down. Yeah, I mean, no matter what your time.
No, this would be a fun one. I could probably get a lot of my members to do it.
High Rocks is what he's saying.
Yeah, well, I know for a fact if I do it, I'll get at least 7, 8, 10 members that'll want to do it. We could just go out there and rep the program anyway, and then we could
wear the gear. Just have
we could train for this all day long at the ranch. Like we can create all kinds of cool stuff there.
It's fun. That's what's so cool is as long as you.
I want the community aspect. I don't want to do it alone. So, and I know you're in Tulsa. I'm in Nashville.
You can do doubles. You can do relay, which is actually 4 people. Break it up too, which is cool.
Yeah.
I'm doing 1 double right now and 2 solos that I'm signed up for.
Nice.
So
interesting. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll start with a double because then it's just
do a double with me. I'll do a double with you in Atlanta.
Then we'll eat doubles afterwards.
doubles.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Well, cool, brother. It's been interesting. We haven't caught up in a long time. I'm glad we finally got you out here on the podcast. I do have one question I ask every single person that sits in that chair that comes out to Nashville, and that is this word behind me, my favorite F word. What does it mean to you? What comes to mind? Like when you hear the word feedback, I used it obviously a lot. It is my favorite F word. Making sure we're still recording and we're feedbacking. What hits you?
Yeah, to me, and we talked a lot about this, and I'm glad we put the conversation in this place, is if I don't have feedback, there's no ability to grow. And if you are a high-capacity person that wants to lead at a high level, if I want to make an impact at a high level, you can't live in a silo. The most growth I've ever found is whether it's exposure from people ahead of me, it's people around me that care about me to love on me and give me tough love. If it's coaches, is that ability to say, I see something different from you than you see. And that feedback is where growth can happen. The Bible I read says iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. The sharpening we have actually comes from feedback from someone else.
100%. Yeah.
I can push myself to a certain extent, but the elite level that I'm trying to reach cannot happen alone. Like the Bible I read actually says healing comes from discussion with others too. Like you can find forgiveness and salvation and repentance to God, but Scripture says, confess your sins to one another so that you can be healed. And so I'm just a firm believer that growth cannot happen in my own silo. I have to get feedback so that I can grow, but I also can't heal with that either.
So how do we get men to want to seek feedback? Because I think that's where a lot of men are getting stuck is like, well, it's cool listening to these guys and they seem to be doing okay, but like, how do they actually... because you have to request feedback, and that's the scariest thing for men, because then you're going to tell them something about themselves that might sting. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. It's just so hard. How do we get
tough.
more men?
I mean, you got to be willing to open up to that. And I continue to ask myself every time I make a hard decision, whether it's signing up for a new race that I'm nowhere near comfortable with, if it's hiring a new coach, if it's starting a new business venture that is going to stretch me, am I willing to settle for less than my best? What would be possible if I actually stepped into something greater? And I'm just not okay with phoning it in. Like, good enough is not good enough. I don't want to get to the end of my life and come face to face with the Creator and say, hey, here's what you could have done and here's what you did. Like, that's what eats me up at night. And so I think, any leader listening to this, you got to be able to ask, like, are you willing to settle for where you are? If so, okay. No one's going to make you do that. But if you're honest, there's this gnawing on the inside that says, I know that I
Well, yeah, and
more.
that's actually one of my favorite like visualization frameworks is like imagine meeting potential you on your deathbed or at the end, right? So you've got you, your creator, and then here's the guy that's been calling you forever, and like look at the life that you see him saying, like that would hurt to see how big that gap is, all because you turned this podcast off because you were over it. You just went right back to old shit. You decided not to sign up for High Rocks because High Rocks scary, or you decide whatever it is. It's like, man, the shoulda, woulda, coulda. And you talk about that feeling that's like gnawing at you, that voice that's calling you. Every dude has it. I don't care what they say. The question is like, what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean?
The problem is people silence it for so long. Like they just ignore it,
they
suppress it, and it starts to numb. And I think I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest hacks I have is when you feel that gnawing, take action while you're inspired and force yourself into accountability. Like sign up and pay the thing then.
Yeah.
Like sign up for the race then. Hire the coach right then and take advantage of the cycle of human behavior. That's just the reality. You're going to have times where you're not motivated. You're going to have times where you're super excited. And so take advantage of that. Like if you're listening to this and you feel that little bit of gnaw.
Yeah, if you're at this part of the wave.
Yeah. Like
grab it. Because you're about to hit this part of the wave and then you're going to do shit again.
Look at one of the next EVs, like send the message right now and commit and like whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think has been the secret. Like when I joined Multiple Club too, I didn't anywhere near have the business that needed to be in that room.
Or the $7 or $8 grand a month they were asking for.
Like I was it's supposed to be. I was a solopreneur making $30K a month in my business.
Yeah.
And then all these guys are 7-8 figure plus, and I'm like, well, we come to find out not everybody was, but at least that's what it was supposed to be. And to pay 7-8 grand a month, like I couldn't afford that, but I had that gnawing, and I saw the video.
Well, look how much opportunity it's affording you, right? Like that's what people don't understand. It's not like if I give this guy $7 grand or whatever it is, will I get an ROI specifically in my bank account tomorrow or next month or whatever? It's like it's all of the other opportunities that come as a result of just doubling down on yourself. Like you said, I'm at the top of this wave. I'm feeling it. Yeah. I'm just gonna go back to old me.
And I've never lost investing in myself.
Never. Ever.
I've hired terrible coaches that had no idea what they were doing, still won in some way. And I think once you realize that, like you get over the fear of betting on yourself. And I think you mentioned that earlier too. Like I'm more ready to continue to invest more money in coaching because every time it's been a win. And so I think you once you're at the top of the peak, just commit to something, send the money, sign up for make the social post so that you can't hide from it.
That's the big one, by the way. That one's huge. Like my wife is always trying to convince me to live a little more publicly because she thinks my life is cool. Apparently some people do. I think it's like boring as shit sometimes.
I can't tell you how many times I was training for the 100 where I did not feel like it, and then I would think about like how I would feel if I had to go post that like I failed at the 100 again. Or I even told you this, when I was running at the actual race in Henderson, I was multiple times mentally in a dark place. Like I'm done. I can't do this. And I thought about how many of my friends, family, girlfriend that had flown across the country and spent time, effort to support and love on me. It's like, even if like I would fail myself, but I'm not going to make them go back home thinking, dang, like he didn't even do it.
100%.
And so when you put yourself around coaches, around people that you've verbally committed publicly, that
financially committed to, timeline-wise,
like it's yes, there's all this stuff for growth, but you also are more likely to let yourself down than you would other people.
100%. We let ourselves down, 5 times a day, but it's very hard to let another human being down.
That's why I love training with people too. Like my coach, I have to 3 days a week go in person and show up to the time and do the workout. Like or I'm on the road, he sees the runs that I've committed to too. And so like I would let me down and I would bail on a workout. I'm not going to let him down because I'm not going to be the guy that flakes out on my coach.
Dude, it's my favorite app. I think it's called Final Surge, and I've used a lot of coaches and different technology. But the lady that was doing my running from Florida, it's Kevin's, right? He does like triathlons and crazy shit. She was in my Garmin Live, right, with the app. However, we linked up. So like she, even during my run, this is how on it she was. And not all the time because she has a life, but she would actually message me and it would show up on my Garmin like, slow the fuck down. You know what I mean? And I'm like, where are you? This is insane. I'm in Nashville. You're in Florida. But I thought that was the most powerful thing is like, you don't have to be right next to them all the time. There's a lot of power in proximity. But that was one of the coolest things was just knowing that like, as soon as I press this button and I go live on a run, like she gets the notification. And if she's not busy, and she wants to be like, dude, I gave you a 12:30 mile pace, which it's like it's like mall walking.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is gay. I'm gonna move faster. Then she would be like, hey, slow down, but still get your 180 steps per minute cadence. You know what I mean? Anyway,
well, it's the same thing. Like I see the results our clients get, and it's way better than when I train personally at a gym because there's that every single thing I eat, every workout that I do, someone is seeing that. And so they've got this feedback mechanism that says, hey, you're better than that. Get your crap straight.
Yeah. Well, cool, brother. I think we covered a lot. Hopefully, you guys learned a lot. Near and dear friend of mine. We need to do more episodes. We need to go back to just we need to set this up where we just casually hang out and talk shit and put some stuff up on the TV and stuff, more Joe Rogan style. But thanks for coming out. Where can people find you? What do you got going on? Anything coming up? That's your camera right there. If
cool. So best place to find me would be Instagram, Cole David Taylor. That's where I'm most active. You can also go to cole360.com. That has all of my social links, YouTube, podcasts, everything. So Instagram, Cole David Taylor, cole360.com. There's 3 things, you could jump in. If you're a guy that is a faith-driven believer, you can jump into our Bible study group. We do weekly Bible study, daily devotionals. We do monthly gathering. There's no pitches. There's nothing to buy there. It's just I'm a former pastor, and I love loving on people, and I grow in that just because I have to lead at a higher level there.
Absolutely.
If you want to level up your health, we can talk about that. If you have an organization that wants to build a leadership team and scale, we can help implement an operating system. So check out the dates on that site / on my Instagram. We share about all that stuff, and we'd love to serve in any way I can. We've also got a wild amount of free resources, like free health community, free workout programs, free nutrition stuff. I'm definitely a go-giver to where it's like,
dude, the best guys out there are giving away their best shit for free. Remember that. So just literally how can we help as many people as possible? And then my man will take care of the rest.
100%.
That's been the MO. So
enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming out again. That's another episode of Feedback. I'm your man, Nick Alfano. That was Cole Taylor. You know how to find them. I'll see you guys on another episode.
Yeah.
What do I do with my hands? Get out of here.